Chapter 61. Thanksgiving was approaching, and I was looking forward to going over Bob and Nancy's house like we did every year. She was a great cook, and I could put up with all their relatives as long as I got to eat dinner there. She always had a feast. I couldn't wait for the mashed potatoes and turkey with that delicious gravy, her vegetable dish with the cheese and croutons or whatever, the green bean casserole, the ham, the pies, the yeast rolls. Oh my God. I could hardly stand it. Thanksgiving seemed so far off. If only we could have a feast every month. Oh yeah, now that would be the ticket. I hoped that her granddaughter Kathy wouldn't be there. She was weird. And unfortunately, there wouldn't be any younger kids there for me to wrestle with. Their grandkids were all older, including Kathy. Kevin told us that his parents were going out of town and weren't taking him with them. He was expected to find someone to stay with while they were gone. We all thought that was weird. I asked Daddy if he could stay with us, but he said no, that we'd just end up screwing each other. He wasn't sure that we weren't already having sex. Oh, we did it once. I'm just not interested in him. He's my friend, I replied. My dad stared at me a second or two. I supposed that he didn't think I'd admit that. And David? He asked. I shook my head. No, I don't know what's going on with him. He doesn't seem interested in anybody, even for sex. And no, I didn't ask him to have sex with me. He's just a friend too. But Daddy, he can cook. And he wears cowboy boots sometimes. And he can play guitar like nobody's business. I'm all about that. Tell me that you wouldn't want a piece of that. I was teasing him then. He proceeded to tell me that it was best not to sleep with the whole school. He was kidding, but not kidding. But then he said that you should be true to someone. I can't believe you just said that, I replied, as I knew he was sleeping with a married woman. I know, I should take my own advice, he said wistfully. She said she's going to leave her husband. Really, Dad? I asked warily and rather sarcastically. I'd heard that before, at least a year before. Not that I was keeping track, mind you. Don't judge. Life might put you in the same predicament, he replied. I'm sorry, I told him, and I gave him a hug. I knew he wanted more than anything to be with Mary. We'd totally gotten off subject about who Kevin was going to stay with. David managed to talk his parents into letting him stay over their house. I knew that Alan would mentally torture Kevin. Alan was such a jerk. Rick was griping because his dad loved to hunt and was hounding him to go hunting with them. Man, I fucking hate hunting, he remarked. He was hoping that David or Kevin would go with him. They weren't interested. Don't look at me, Carol told him. Me either, I added. And Cole's family was going out of town to visit relatives, so I didn't have to deal with him. It was just as well. The day before Thanksgiving, Nancy came down with the flu, so our Thanksgiving plans went out the window. Maybe we could go to Greenville and eat out somewhere, I suggested to my dad. It was too late to thaw a turkey, even if we wanted to cook. Yeah, I guess so, he sighed. He'd been looking forward to a big Thanksgiving feast, too. And holidays were hard on him when he knew Mary was with her husband and family. If there would have been a way to help him, I would have. We were both moping around the house that morning when someone knocked on the door. Will you get the door? He yelled from the den. You live here too, you know, and clean your room. We were both irritable that morning. I supposed that he hadn't got laid lately, and I knew I hadn't either. And then add to that we weren't going to enjoy a fabulous meal or anyone's company but our own. Well, that just made us cranky. I sighed and got my butt out of the recliner where I'd been watching some sci-fi movie with Yellow and opened the door. Hi, Kevin said. David was standing there with him. I noticed that Yellow hadn't followed me to the door. He was having more trouble getting around as he aged, and I suppose he already knew who was at the door. Aren't you two supposed to be entertaining David's relatives with your half-assed guitar playing? I asked. Shut up. I'm a better guitarist than you are, David remarked as he pushed past me and walked in the door uninvited with Kevin behind them. They began explaining the meltdown that was happening at his house as they followed me upstairs to my bedroom. Alan was in the center of the meltdown. "What are you doing?" he asked as he realized where we were going. He'd never been in my bedroom before. I gave him a bored look. "Daddy threatened violence if I didn't clean up my room, and so here I am," I told him. I sat on the bed as they continued with their story and interrupted with comments about my room. Clothes were on the floor, my bed was unmade, books were strewn about, and my floor needed vacuumed. "Aren't you going to clean it up?" Kevin asked in confusion as I continued sitting on the bed listening to them talk. "No," I replied. I watched as he picked up my clothes. I was glad they stopped by to visit. They might be sissy boys, but they were sure handy with housework. "Hamper in the bathroom," I advised him, and he walked out to deposit my clothes there. I stood up and tugged at the sheet on my bed. David pulled at the other end, and I let him strip the bed. "Closet in the hallway," I advised. He came back with clean sheets and began making my bed. They were still talking about what had happened at his house. The bottom line was that Alan had made everyone except his parents angry, and so David had walked out with Kevin. They figured out that my place was as good as any to hide out. Kevin was vacuuming my rug as I sat on my made bed and watched him. David was straightening up my books. I picked up a new music magazine that I'd bought and then scooted to lean against the headboard of my bed. They straightened up a few other things, then sat on either side of me to look at what I was reading. "So, we were hoping that we could go wherever you and Dad are going for Thanksgiving dinner. You're going to your neighbor's house, right? The nice neighbor that's a great cook," Kevin remarked. He'd met Bob and Nancy before when we'd gone to their house to help Bob with repairing his fence. She had tweaked his cheeks like a little kid and had given him a hug. I knew that he had liked it even though it embarrassed him, and I had watched in amusement. I had to admit that Kevin was cuddly, and she'd cooked his favorite dish for helping Bob. "Nancy is sick with the flu, so we ain't going nowhere. I asked Daddy if we could go to Greenville to eat out, but no doubt he'll think out when it's time to go," I grumbled. "Oh," Kevin replied in disappointment. "That really sucks." We went back to looking at the guitar magazine and commenting about all the cool guitars that we wanted to buy when we got famous. "Oh," I heard my dad say in a surprised voice as he stuck his head in my bedroom. "I didn't know you had company. Hi, guys." I felt both of them jerk guiltily, but they greeted him. "Hey, Daddy, my bedroom's clean," I smiled. Yep, it hadn't been any of my doing. That was the funny part. I kind of figured that he didn't appreciate the guys in my bedroom blatantly sitting next to me on my bed, but the door was open. We weren't hiding anything or doing anything that would have caused an alarm. "Yeah, I wonder how that happened," Daddy replied with a sarcastic tone to his voice. "What are you guys doing here?" he asked them. "It's Thanksgiving." "They're hiding out," I replied so they would understand that he wasn't mad about them being there. "There's been a meltdown at the Steiner residence, so we left," David told him. "So do we have enough TV dinners for the four of us, Daddy?" I asked. I was manipulating them, of course. I knew that there was no way that David was going to eat a TV dinner, and no way that my dad would agree to TV dinners with them joining us. "I can cook if you have anything to cook," David volunteered. Now that was the ticket. The Piggly Wiggly should be open," Daddy quickly told him. "We can buy some ham or something." It was amusing to me how quickly my dad had agreed to that. And that's how David and Kevin ended up going to the grocery store with my dad. I wasn't going to any grocery store. I knew that, my dad knew that. I was glad he didn't press the issue. At one point I felt lonely, but then I imagined them in the store looking at those millions of choices of food items, and I felt panic. Nope, it was best I stayed home with Yellow. "It's good to have other men around," Daddy remarked as they came through the door with bags of groceries. I was glad too, because lots of bags meant a feast. "They help things get done around here. Daughters seem to think they're above housework and chores," he continued. "Hey, who bush-hogged your fields the past couple of years and saved you from having to pay someone to do it?" I asked back. "This is just housework." I leaned against the counter and crossed my arms. Kevin and David watched and listened with interest. A person should have a rounded set of skills. You need to help these manly men cook dinner. Someday you're going to have to cook for a family, he announced as he took the groceries out of the bag while Kevin and David followed his example. The thing is, Daddy, is that I don't have to because I'm going to live with you the rest of my life. I'll continue doing the farm work and you can do the housework, I replied back, smiling. He snorted at that. Yeah, we'll look forward to eating popcorn every day like we've done for the past week. I shrugged my shoulders and I looked at David. I saw the realization in his eyes that sometimes I might be sarcastic, but that I was usually truthful with what I chose to tell others about my life. And I didn't help with making dinner either. David, as usual, had his camera, and he took pictures of us. It occurred to me that I'd never had so many pictures taken of me in my entire life until I'd met him. We had our picture taken at school each year, but otherwise, there were few pictures of me growing up and even fewer of me and Daddy. At least David was providing that now. In our dinner conversation, I found that he had also selected everything that we'd eaten as well prepared it, and Daddy was more than happy to let him take over. Me, I was thinking that the meals he cooked were the best I'd ever eaten.